Good evening, Energy Rogue Nation. Welcome back to another weather discussion. Thank you all so much for tuning in. It has been about 2.5 weeks since the last time we've posted a video here on the channel. I hope each and every one of you have had a safe and happy holidays. Hope you had the opportunity to spend that with loved ones. I certainly did, and that is hence the reason why we didn't have a video upload over these last couple of weeks, because I have not been in town. I've actually been visiting family back up in the Chicago suburbs. But since it has been quite a long time, I wanted to get this video out to talk about the next week of interesting winter weather, especially across the south central United States for folks in Texas and Oklahoma, pretty much the south central United States proper, and then eventually extending into the Tennessee Valley and the Northeast. And with this conversation, we're mostly going to be talking about winter storm potential, as well as just snow precipitation, wintry mix precipitation, if you will. And we'll also be sure to throw in some temperature conversation as well. One last thing I want to mention before we get started with tonight's video: I will be doing another Weather Office Hours in the Weather Rogue Discord channel on the Energy Rogue Discord server. Talk about a mouthful and a run-on sentence. But that has had a lot of great feedback and reception. Many of you have enjoyed that. That is only for folks who are subscribed to Energy Rogue. So if you haven't checked it out already, energyrogue.com. Again, it's energyrogue.com for, again, insights on energy and natural gas. But of course, there's also the weather side of it. So you get a lot of goodies for signing up. I'll have a link down below in the description for those who are interested. But we will be doing another Weather Rogue real-time discussion Thursday night, 7 o'clock p.m. And in addition, speaking of Thursday, we also will have a forecast discussion relating to the cooling, or I should say heating degree day demand out in Europe. We have certainly seen some bouts of winter as of late, so we'll be talking more about that and what that means for the next couple of months. But I want to start with this tonight. I typically like to stay on the topic of winter weather, especially as it relates to heating degree days, as well, of course, with our cooling degree days in the summer. But you don't really see me a lot talking about things like wildfire. And tonight I decided to just quickly give this a mention. I don't think a shout out would be the appropriate term, more so of a mention. Right now, at the time of this video, we are seeing a pretty historic wildfire across the Palisades in Los Angeles County and Ventura County. And there is a whole forecast discussion that I can go into as far as what's causing this event. And that's, of course, outside the scope of this video. If you want more information, feel free to hit me up. But for those that have been following, we're talking about really dry conditions across Los Angeles and Ventura County. Not just that, but we're also experiencing some really strong winds. I mean, we're talking about anywhere between 80, well, that's written in black, you can't see it, let's try it again, 80 to, in some cases, 100 mile per hour wind gusts, even in some cases exceeding 100 miles per hour tonight. And what you're seeing here is a radar, and by the looks of it, you may think that it's precipitation. In reality, it's not. We're actually looking at smoke and ongoing fire. So these little plumes that you see here just off the coast of Inglewood, Manhattan Beach, and near Malibu, and then of course more inland out towards Los Angeles, these are really potent smoke plumes that are associated with wildfire. We have seen rapid wildfire conflagration. We've also seen a lot of flame spotting. And for those that don't know, flame spotting is the idea that embers from the source fire are traveling, in some cases dozens of miles away from the original source, and sprouting up new fires downstream. Exactly what we're seeing tonight. Of course, our thoughts and prayers are with those who are impacted. A pretty serious situation that's unfolding across Los Angeles County tonight. Could, of course, for energy and nat gas folks, could have some significant implications on the power grid. That remains to be seen how that holds up tonight. But of course, we will keep you posted by really over the next couple of days. But just wanted to show you this because it's a fascinating loop. And, you know, it's not every day that you see a fire on radar. It's usually when you have smoke that is really being picked up by the jet and in this case, towering tens of thousands of feet high. That's how the radar is actually picking up on that. So you can tell even just by the reflectivity here, again, this is not precipitation, this is smoke. And because of these green colors, that's really indicating some serious conflagration and rapid wildfire spread. You typically don't see this kind of signature on a radar unless if you have a really large fire. This is exactly what's happening here tonight. So once again, thoughts and prayers are with those folks who are impacted by that. Really tough to transition from wildfire to winter and to what we're expecting over the next couple of days, but we have to here in the meteorology world. It's like I said, hard to do, but the show must go on. And so aside from the wildfire, which we're hoping does not cause significant loss of life or property, this is expected to also be responsible for bringing about a winter system across Texas starting around Thursday. So how do I come up with that answer? Well, this map you're looking at here is our jet stream map. 500 millibar, once again, for those folks who are new, is representative of the jet stream. And this shortwave trough here, when we talk about troughs, we're talking about dips in the jet. A ridge means valleys, right, or peaks and troughs, peaks and troughs. So in the case of the trough, well, we clearly have a dip here, and that's out towards Southern California this evening. And this trough is going to be responsible for developing a surface low out near the coast of Galveston and Corpus Christi. And that system is going to be responsible for outputting wintry precipitation across the Red River Valley, eastern Oklahoma, and north central and northeastern Texas as we head into later on this work week. So let's go ahead and show this in real time. Keep an eye on that trough. It eventually comes out to be a little bit of a cutoff low, and then you see all these reds and pinks out downstream. That's corresponding to a deepening trough, and subsequent to that, a downstream low pressure system that's going to be feeding on some Gulf moisture on the southern end, and then on the northern flank, it's going to be wrapping around some really nice cold air advection. Classic sign of a winter system. Of course, a little bit abnormal for a place like Dallas, Texas. We'll talk more about that here in a moment. That system's then expected to eventually eject on that really strong jet that becomes amplified by the time you get to Saturday morning, and that's going to bring some wintry precipitation for the Tennessee Valley and even up towards the northeast and the eastern seaboard. So let's talk about snow totals tonight, and we'll really focus our attention on areas that I think are, I would say, significant to focus on out of anybody. And that is the areas of the south central United States. Why is that? Because of the fact of how vulnerable this area is to wintry systems, especially one of this nature. So let's go ahead and we'll start first with just precipitation type. This takes us into Saturday. Let's back up a little bit here. This is the latest run on the GFS as of 18Z tonight. And so as we take this into Wednesday, Thursday, you notice off the page we're seeing some precipitation beginning to consolidate right near Corpus Christi and Galveston. And that's that surface low pressure that begins to develop on the heels of that trough that's currently positioned over Southern California tonight, that is then expected to swing across the Four Corner states by the time we get to tomorrow morning and afternoon. And as that happens, you're going to see some blue pop up on the map, initially starting as rain, but then eventually transitioning over to snow by the time we get to Friday morning. And of course, that snowfall is also likely to extend, as I mentioned before, for the Tennessee Valley and even places of the Deep South. We could be talking about snowfall and measurable snowfall for folks in northern Alabama, Mississippi, and much of Arkansas as we head into your Friday morning, and then eventually continuing throughout Friday evening and eventually out of the area by Saturday morning. Now, this is just one interpretation. Let's also take a look here at another solution that I think would be beneficial to look at. And we'll also take a look at a short-range model here momentarily. But let's kick things off with the European model, and let's go back to precipitation. Now, I don't think this is going to depict and differentiate between snow and rain, but at least it's going to give us a sense of the position of the system. And as you can see, a little bit more on the southern end, right? So the European model has the system a little bit more south relative to the GFS, but still expecting wintry precipitation for this area here circled in black. And as I mentioned, let's take a look at one more model here. This is the NAM, a little bit more on the short-term side, and this will give us some simulated reflectivity, although I want precipitation type. I don't think the NAM is going to show it either. So you know what? I think we're going to resort then to just the snowfall totals, and we'll go back to the other models too to compare. So if we take a look here at the totals forecasted for that, we mentioned Friday morning and afternoon. You can see here on the latest NAM run, it's relatively conservative, a little bit on the lower side for the Dallas Metroplex and points north. However, we are expecting to see, I would argue, some pretty substantial snowfall for this area that we had circled prior. Could even see upwards of 5 to 7 inches, at least according to the NAM. The GFS and the European model, I know, have been a little bit sort of finicky on the pathing of this system, so I'll show you that here now. We'll take a look at the GFS and go back to that. You can see, as we talked about, looks like we have a little bit more, not comparable to the NAM, but mostly to the Euro. We have a little bit more of a northern bias here, to where it's favoring more of a northern path and a little bit further away from Dallas. Still, Dallas Metroplex seeing anywhere between 3 to 5 inches of snow, that's pretty significant for this area. Last time I think we saw measurable snowfall to even somewhere close to this equivalency, and I would say this isn't anywhere near 2021, but the closest reference would be Winter Storm Uri of 2021, and that was a pretty big strain on the power grid in Texas. So something to watch really closely. Texas, in my opinion, is going to be significantly tested on its power grid for the first time since 2021. So it's really going to be put to the test here as far as if anything has been learned over the past 4 years. Considering what we saw with Hurricane Beryl impacting Houston and impacting their power grid relative to that system, it leaves me a little bit concerned and on edge on how well Texas will perform in this event, but it remains to be seen. We will find out. But now that we've showed the GFS, let's lastly circle back over to the European model. And as you can tell, right, we got a little bit of, again, northward bias in the GFS. European model is being a little bit more aggressive with Dallas, putting anywhere between that, again, 5 to 7 inch range. That's the range we're sticking with at the moment. Either way, certainly expecting a significant event for north central Texas and the Red River Valley. And like I said, even extending into Arkansas. And I would even make the argument that the most snow out of this is likely going to be central and southern Arkansas, or somewhere within that vicinity downstream, especially as we get that jet stream to really amplify. When that happens, those bright colors you saw in the very beginning, and actually let's just go back here and I'll show you once more exactly what I'm talking about here. But these bright colors that you see on the jet stream map right there across Mississippi, Alabama, that's telling me that there's a lot of forcing aloft. And when you see that strong of a jet, that tells me as a meteorologist that the system downstream of it is going to be rapidly strengthening. And so I really expect this surface low to develop as it goes more downstream towards Arkansas, Alabama, Mississippi. That, of course, could have implications too. But either way, certainly, nonetheless, this is expected to be a significant event for the Dallas Metroplex and points north, especially encompassing some areas of eastern and central Oklahoma in the meantime. Listen, thank you so much for tuning in. And actually, before I jump to that, I don't want to forget to do this. Let's just real quickly show you some of the short-term temperatures here. And actually, I will do this. Let's do the NAM here. A lot of conversation over the last few days about freeze-offs. I just want to show this. Over the next, say, Wednesday into Thursday, expecting temperatures to warm above freezing in the afternoons, especially out ahead of that system, that surface low you see here showing up on the Gulf. Look at all that southerly flow by those wind barbs. I expect temperatures in the meantime, between now and that system's arrival, to be pretty much, warming just above freezing for many of these areas by the time you get to the afternoon. But once that system passes through for Saturday, we really once again see that cold air intrude once more across the state on the back heels of the cold front. This is certainly a day to watch for additional cold air pressure. And by the way, I think it's important to note too, with the orientation of that surface low with respect to especially south central Texas, These are areas that are very vulnerable to this cold air. Not to say that the Panhandle in Dallas isn't, but the farther south you go, the more vulnerable they are. I think that's a fair argument to make. And so, one thing that we're going to be keeping an eye on here over at Energy Rogue is how this cold air impacts this part of the state. Because we could be expecting to see some more hard freezes for places like Houston, even down towards San Antonio. And that could be quite significant. So we will continue to keep a close eye on that. Again, Saturday looks to be that next day where I'm concerned for potential freeze-offs, especially for some of these more vulnerable sites across central and southern Texas. Could be something to watch. Next couple days, however, I'm expecting those temperatures to warm above freezing. So if there's any good news there for a lot of these midstreams and different sites, is that we're not expecting to see prolonged periods of cold. There is going to be intermittent above freezing temperatures in the afternoon, but cannot say the same for once that cold front passes by the time I get to Saturday. Just wanted to mention that before I called it a night. But listen, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And with that being said, we will be back here on Thursday with another weather video. Take care.